Finding animals from the Ice Age. Others had heard that Tony had found the bones of horses and zebras before, but this one made people think of the woolly mammoth gold rush. It says that the baby mammoth is at least 30,000 years old, and the ground and ice in the area are thought to have kept the animals alive during the Ice Age. During the gold rush, people saw more strange things than just elephant tusks. Miners have seen things besides the gold they were looking for. Parker saw something that blew his mind in particular, meeting the welcome stranger face to face. Parker Snobble almost passed out when he saw a copy of Welcome Stranger. It is the biggest gold nugget that has ever been found. We saw that he was half a world away from the Klondike Gold Rush Trail in Season 4, Episode 2, called Installment of Gold Rush, Parker's Trail. He was looking for new experiences and chances at the start of the show. Parker and his partner Fred Lewis were greeted by Tyler Mahoney, a fourth-generation Australian gold prospector. She opened her truck door and put a 2-ton-long golden boulder across the back seat. A story says that the welcome stranger was so big that it had to be broken in 3 with a hammer so that it could fit on a bank scale. The nugget would be worth about $4.7 million if it were sold today at the rate at which gold is sold. The original welcome stranger was turned into gold bars a long time ago, but 2 perfect copies are still around. 2 of them are on show in Melbourne's old Treasury building. One is owned by the Des descendants and is kept there. The one that was taken from Mahoney's truck is thought to belong to the Dean family and is kept in a column built in 1897, which still stands in Mall to mark the spot where the nugget was found. Parker and no other modern gold miner found it, so the question is, who made this huge find that even Parker couldn't believe? The Victorian gold rush happened in the 1850s when a lot of people with big dreams went to Victoria, Australia, to try to make money. They came from all over Australia and other places around the world. I felt very, very happy for a short time. Some people hit it big and were rich for life, but for most, they never got that rich. It was true for 2 Cornish miners on February 5, 1869, when luck did come their way. John Doe was born on Tresco in the Isles of Scilly. When he was 1 year old, his fishing father drowned, and the family moved to Pendine in West Cornwall. In this place, he met Richard Oates, who became his partner. In the 1851 census, both of them were working in the tin mines of Cornwall. It was 1853 when Mr. De moved to Australia, and a year later, Mr. Oates did the same thing to become a gold prospector. They went to Maliyadgo in 1862 and made a living there for 7 years. Then, in 1864, they hit gold. They found the amazing thing that made history, a huge piece of gold wrapped in quartz that was hidden just below the surface of a slope called Bulldog Gully. Mr. De wrote that he tried to use the pick to pick up the rock, but the handle broke because it was so big. He then got a crowbar and dug the nugget out of the ground. It was weighed at the London Chartered Bank in Denali, which is about 12 miles away. The nugget was broken up right away because the scales were too big to make a model or take pictures of it. People who saw it remember it, so a drawing was made of it, and there is now a copy in the Denali Museum. Miners in places with lots of gold keep finding important things for sure. Parker Snobble has shown that he is a strong person. Let's take a quick look back at his amazing journey. The sparkling nugget Parker had to find his way through a world full of new claims and cutting-edge technology. Advances in Season 10 of Gold Rush, a big event happened in the middle of all the digging activity. The electrified nugget was found. Parker, his team, and Gold Rush fans were all very excited about the find because it was so rare and special. When Parker set out on his quest, people were most excited about finding bigger and better things. He hoped to haul and grow his business across Klondike and Scryer Creek. The electric nugget was about 41.8 ounces in weight and got its name from a dendritic crystal that looked like lightning bolts. The nugget's unique feature makes it stand out from other finds and a rare natural wonder, which raises its value above its face value. As the season went on, Episode 15, $1 Million Payday, became a strong candidate for showing the exciting secret. In the end, the explosive nugget adds a brilliant chapter to Parker's history of gold mining. Its market value is high because it is hard to find and has a beautiful crystal structure. It will always be remembered as an important and memorable gold rush find. The bounty at Eureka Creek. Parker set out on a dangerous adventure at the start of Season 7 of Gold Rush. He learned about how hard the mining business is by dealing with problems like broken equipment, unstable gold yields, and the risks of unexplored terrain. Even so, he wasn't going to give up. He invested in cutting-edge technology and tweaked his business to meet his challenges and make a huge recovery. Around the middle of the season, there was a big change, and watchers saw Parker's work at Eureka Creek start to pay off. After that, there was a long time of impressive gold recovery, which is where the name Eureka Creek Bounty comes from. The peak of this reward was reached by episodes like Eureka Payday and King of Klondike. Parker always found a lot of gold, going above and beyond what fans expected and what he had found before. It was impossible to hold back their happiness as the team enjoyed the results of their hard work and persistence. One thing that makes the Eureka Creek Bounty unique is that it was a turning point. Parker's constant success in finding gold in the area made him a leader in the tough world of gold mining. Because he kept having success, he was able to move his business to other places and buy better technology and tools. Even though Parker has found a lot of gold, he is still losing money. Since he started working as a miner when he was 16, he has lost a lot of money. Let's look at some of the losses he has gone through. A huge $3 million loss. Parker and his team put a lot of money into an area in Alaska and then got 108 ounces of gold from the waste that old gold miners left behind. But what really made things better was an area called the Wolf Cut. It was untouched land that was thought to have more than 2,000 ounces of gold and be worth more than $3 million. They even called this Wolf Cut the most important pit of the season because of how much information it gave them. Parker's crew needed 2 months just to get to the pay layer of the cut because the area is so deep. Things don't always go as planned, though. That's how things were for the team. A terrible flood a few weeks ago turned the Wolf into a lake. Because it was so hard, Parker thought it would be better to take all the money and go to Vegas than to drown in the Wolf Cut. Parker, who was known for being stubborn, wouldn't just give up the place. After some trouble, the team was able to push back the water, and Mark Forbes, who was in charge of the operation, finally came down to get the treasure. Parker was keen to find out if there was enough gold for them to risk everything. He went to one spot and moved the dirt around, but it needed to be better. He finally found some fine dirt in another part of the cut, which meant there was gold there. Parker chose to go work and come back in 2 days with the crew. But just when it looked like everything was going to plan and they were going to get some gold, something shocked the whole crew. There was a hole in the wall, and mud and water were pouring out of it. It was clear that Mother Nature was not on their side that day. The water that they thought they had gotten rid of was back, but this time it was stronger and a bigger problem than the last time. People on the crew didn't think this would happen. The Wolf Cut could be filled with it again, which would mean a big loss. An excavator hit the side of the pit while digging for pay at the bottom of the cut. This revealed a mine shaft that was full of water, which flooded millions of gallons of water back into the pit and filled the pay grounds. There was nothing wrong with the crew's preparation, they just needed to be more ready. They had one 8-inch pump, but they needed more to get the job done. The second pump was turned on, but it didn't make a big difference. There was still water coming in from all sides. The team lost the battle against the water after they turned on both pumps. They had no choice but to take the pump out of the wash plant. It was such a big choice, though, and Parker should have made the call. The problem was that he wasn't there or answering his phone. They were in a tough spot. The area would flood if they didn't pull the pump from the wash plant to help the other 2 pumps, and they would lose their pay in the Wolf Cut. It would be hard to believe how much would be lost. Tyler made the tough choice to turn off the wash plant and remove its pump, which doubled their ability to drain. They had to leave the area while the pumps did their thing. In 24 hours, the pumps took away 10 million gallons of water. Parker finally came back, and he was very excited to see the first edit of the Wolf Cut. Instead, people told him stories about the flood that had happened. Now, Parker's trouble with water was still going on, though, in a different story. He came into contact with water again when his mining ground in the Wolf Cut was taken over by water. Underwater mine site, Parker was looking for a pay streak in the 4-acre Wolf Cut on his Alaskan claim. He hoped that it would bring him at least 1,000 ounces this season. The pay dirt was 30 feet below, and the team had to dig out 1,000 yards of extra material to get to it. 4 feet more, and they would be below water. After that, it would be 30 feet before they hit rocks. But things weren't really fine as they seemed at first. The process was going on right next to a pond, and water would be the first thing that would go wrong if something went wrong. Frozen mud was the best option because it kept the water out. Recruit John Badra was told to deal with the mud and keep the water out, but it looked like the cut was pretty wet, so they had to call their boss if not. Things would go badly if they didn't. It turned out that the mud got worse and spread faster as they opened up more areas. They still hadn't even cut out a fifth of the area. The Wolf Cut is next to a pond that is pretty old. There was only a small berm between them, not strong enough to stand up to the water pressure. If it was messed with, they dug down and found frozen ice that stopped the water from getting in. The permafrost was broken, which now lets pond water seep through the wall and flood the cut. The area will soon have a lot of water if they let it keep going. There was a need for action to save the day. They thought getting a pump would be the best thing for them to do to fight the water. Parker planned to dig a sunk pond in the cut that was as deep as it could go and put in an 8-inch pump to drain it. He was not going to lose another water fight. After setting it up, they had to wait until the next day. Their plan, as a whole, was good and seemed like it would work, but how do they choose a pump to drain water that big from a pond without first making sure it works and fixing any problems it might have? The next day, everyone on the team walked outside to see their perfectly dry and ready to mend wolf cut. But they were about to get a bad surprise. They couldn't find their pump anywhere. It looked like the pump was gone, and instead of a cutting that was completely dry, they found a lake. The pump had terrible problems filling the cut, and putting the pump 4T below the water, $500,000 were about to slip through their hands. The pump was so deep that they couldn't even walk up to it. Tyson had to pull a small kayak out with a chain in the excavator to get the pump to dry ground where they could work on it. Mark Force, the foreman, said that the debris was blocking the suction filter at the end of the hose, which caused the water level to rise and cover the whole pump. To make sure that more flooding wouldn't hurt the pump, he had to take the engine apart and repair it. Parker has shown that he is not easily upset by losses. In fact, he's had a lot of them. In spite of everything, he did something that shocked both miners and fans. Putting an end to a season with $14 million in gold, Parker Schnabel and his team were starting a season that might change everything about gold mining when it was really outside. The risks went up because every shovel full of dirt could make or break their dream. As soon as the season began, there was a sense of urgency, and Parker worked around the clock to coordinate his team's attempts to find the valuable material. The difficult conditions in Alaska were not taken lightly. They put their mental health to the test. They were determined to find their prize, even though the terrain was dangerous and some of the tools they were using didn't work right. Parker had to carefully plan every move because he was in charge of this determined group. His leadership skills had been honed over the years through failures and successes. Expectations were high, but he didn't let that stop him from leading his team through the dangerous terrain. He was motivated by the belief that the Klondike held the key to a life-changing fortune that, when found, would make all of their problems seem small. They finally made progress after a long time when they found a rich seam that went on and on below the frozen ground. It was impossible to contain the excitement in the mine camp when they found a way to do it and a large deposit of gold that would make their whole season different. After a string of setbacks and dashed dreams, the Klondike finally gave up the treasure it held. The huge job of getting the gold out of the frozen ground was still to be done, and Parker was in charge of it. Good news gets around quickly, and this finding did too. The news spread like a blaze through California, getting the attention of both supporters and opponents of mining. Parker and his group were put in the spotlight, and everyone was watching to see how the process would go. This put a lot of pressure on the crew. It looked like they might get $1 million haul. The crew had to race against time as winter got colder. This was another thing that would determine their success. The process of mining sped up, and heavy equipment was used to dig up the gold-filled dirt. When they worked together, it was amazing and shocking. Things were found in the gold room, where they kept their loot. Parker Schnabel told them how much money they had stolen with a mix of pride and shock, $14 million worth of gold. People on his team, among miners, fans, and skeptics, were all amazed by this amazing feat. This season of Gold Rush will always be remembered as one of the best in Klondike history. Parker makes $364,000 in gold after getting rookie operator to move the Sluicifer. Parker, who had a lot of knowledge, kept showing off his accomplishments all these years. Not long ago, he did something even more amazing. He made $364,000 in gold by getting a new operator to move the Sluicifer. The project already owed a huge $15 million, and Parker didn't know how to get out of this mess. There were daily costs and pressing repairs that needed to be done. There was some hope in the idea of getting a $160 million payday in the Dominion, but there were many unknowns along the way. It became clear when he admitted that the whole thing was making him feel pretty worried. He felt a little uneasy for the first time in a few years. He wasn't alone, though, which was good. His team would be there for him no matter what. To save the working bodies, Tyson had to take on everything. He got permission to use the mine from Ken Tadlow and Stuart Schmidt and then began the impossible job of making the experience great again. No one expected the first cut to be so bad, and it took a lot longer than anyone thought it would. As soon as Parker realized how important it was, the pressure rose. He thought Tyson would be able to get up soon. The determination of Parker stayed strong, even though the work to prepare the new spot was hard. He went on to say that while he was getting Ilardo ready, he thought he had a lot of time, but when he was getting the next plant pad ready, he realized he didn't. As Parker dealt with the problems at El Dorado, everyone was left wondering if his unwavering determination would help him get through the tough times and find the gold stores that could make his mining project a success. Parker and Tyson were both involved in the El Dorado moving the wash plant. The El Dorado cut was a huge task that turned some important events in Tyson's life. They had everything they needed except time because the process had to be done by a certain date. The due date for this job was Sunday, and if it was completed successfully, it would be able to stay alive. The plot jumbled up money problems, practical issues, and the almost constant search for the jackpot at Dominion into a mess of problems that needed to be carefully handled. The financial situation added another level of difficulty to the story. The operation, which was already a financial puzzle, was done with the worry of possible bills and the costs of running the business. As I watch them, I can't help but wonder, will this smart move help them find the gold mines they were looking for, or will it be a big mistake on the crazy road of gold mining? At some point in this nail-biting story, you couldn't help but wonder, would Parker Schnabel's huge risk pay off, or would his growing financial responsibilities and practical problems make it impossible for him to reach his goal of finding a gold mine? Dominion is a world where gold rules, and fortunes can change in an instant. Parker Schnabel found himself in a very bad spot. Now is the time for the dream of the unreachable goal to change. Along with it came hard times financially so the business could stay open. The heat had almost made this area its home. It makes me wonder what it's like to be ruled over. The answer is as easy as the question, but it beautifully describes the harsh conditions these miners have to work in every day. The word Dominion means sovereign, and the people who are looking for treasure buried in its land often tell it what its rules are. Another look at the area points to the harshness that is hidden by the light. Parker and his team's determination should definitely be praised. Recently, the weather has gone up, which has raised the bar for what is acceptable. This seemingly normal talk showed how hard these people's lives were. They had to work from dawn until dusk in the hot sun. The next step was to SLO there, but that wasn't official yet. As the thought of starting the slowing process set in, there was a sense of excitement in the air. After some time, they said that sling wouldn't happen because they needed to get better at it first before moving the business. The team was eager to start sling, but first, they had to make some strategic choices. There was a lot of tension in the gold mining business because of who was making efforts to make things run more smoothly. Set a hard goal as the order echoed through the mining site. The story unfolded quickly. Two wanted the plant to begin buzzing before morning. The attention then turned to Tyson, whose scary job it was to move slur around on a pole that wasn't stable. Tyson had to make up slur out of a leaning stick he had lying around. The language used made it clear that the business was sloppy and rushed, even if no one knew how to make learning staff. Putting pressure on Tyson became an important part of the story, a major source of tension that gave the story more depth. To move this Lucifer, you had to have a steady hand and a lot of skill that you learned over time. Tyson had to deal with a lack of experienced hands while working on a tough job. Alec and Liam helped out the last time, and it looked like they were going to drag Lucifer. While Evan CTTS, who was just an operator and didn't know how to move a wash plant, moved Lucifer. The moving of the wash plant was complicated by the fact that parts had to be slung up to the slur and then pulled down to the new pad by the 750. The main reason it was hard to do was because changing wash plants was hard to do when there were already few hands available. As Tyson and Evan took on the job of moving the pieces of Sluicer to its new location, the story took an interesting turn. It wasn't just a jump that was being planned, it was a symbolic risk in the dangerous world of gold mining. Once Lucifer was taken apart piece by piece, sharing could be seen as both a risky move and a game of chance. People who watched the story grow as a dynamic journey had to think about what would happen with the operation and the luck that was going on at the same time. Everything that was done in the world of gold mining had the power to change the whole course of the season. Even Sluicer, seemingly random, jumped. The 45-ton wash plant Sluicer that held the promise of $364,000 in gold hung over their heads. Tyson and his team had to carefully move the Sluicer so that the process would go as planned. To get to its new wash plant pad, Sluicer had to go up a steep ramp, which was hard to do because of the environment. Tyson used the 750 excavator, which was the best one on site at the time, to help carry the heavy Lucifer up the hill. Because he knew it was a period piece. As the story goes on, there is an amazing scene of bravery as they try to get around their opponent, but behind it all is the dangerous operation. The shot was tense because of the way the land was angled and how rude the Washington plant was. The wash plant started to slowly but surely rise because Tyson knew how to use everything he had at the time in a strategic way. From the first few steps toward the wash plant, you could feel the stress in the story. Tyson's main point made the already difficult task even harder. He said that his bucket would be used as a small wrench. He talked about how you need to be able to adapt and be creative when you run into problems you didn't expect. At this point, everyone is almost in pain from the fight and can feel the strain of the hard mental and physical work that needs to be done to get the Lucifer where it needs to be. Tyson's smart use of the bucket as a makeshift crowbar showed how important it was to be able to think quickly and change to survive in the unpredictable world of gold mining. So the operation as a whole relied on the team, and how well they did in this last stage was crucial to achieving the overall goal of a successful season in the Dominion. If this last step is completed successfully, not only will the difficult task be over, but Parker Schnabel will also have the chance to reach his big season goal. The team's ability to deal with the difficulty of this important configuration determined whether the whole operation succeeded or failed. As soon as the work was done, the wash plant set firmly on the pad, giving everyone a sense of readiness and accomplishment. The construction of the conveyor and the hopper feeder was a big deal in and of itself. It was a clear sign that gold processing was about to start. After following this high-stakes operation through all of its changes and surprises, I couldn't help but feel satisfied. There was a promise of gold worth $364,000 off in the distance. The problems were solved, and now everyone was waiting for the next part of Parker Schnabel's story. This move changed everything for Parker. It could get him a big payday and help him beat the challenges of gold digging in Dominion. After finding $364,000 in gold, he was making smart decisions, like letting a new operator move the Sluicer, which was the most important job. Using Sluicer in Gold Rush has had a big effect on the show and the people who watch it. Lucifer's demonstration of cutting-edge technology shows how the gold mining business has changed over time. Time was running out, and every second counted as they looked for the hard-to-find gold that would decide whether the mission succeeded or failed. Parker said he liked how the move was organized. After the rig move, the story went on to look at the day after. Everyone was so eager to hear the result that they stood on edge to listen. They knew that today's machine was the only one that could tell them how productive the whole season had been. The news of the golden sample led to both hope and disappointment. We called that sling. Parker was looking for a 5,000-ounce endonym to keep his business from going through a lot of trouble. He needed to hit one hard. he couldn't do everything to make it work.